Hello, everyone. My name is Madeline.
I'm Laura Gardner.
And today what we're going to be talking about is, or what we're doing for our trauma explanation summary video is on the topic of natural disasters. We're just going to do a quick brief introduction and then we're going to get started into our role play. So natural disasters could encompass anything such as earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, forest fires, floods, volcanic eruptions, landslides, or tsunamis. So a natural disaster is defined as an event of nature which overwhelms local resources and threatens the function of safety of the community overall. So again, for this assignment, what we decided to do was touch base on the impact events such as hurricanes and wildfires have on individuals who live through them. So we're going to kind of look at the individual's worldview and how they have been negatively affected because they lived through that situation. And they felt that their well-being and the well-being of their loved ones may have been threatened and has caused them traumatic stress. So some of the symptoms associated with an individual that has experienced a traumatic event is that they can have either flashbacks, they could avoid certain situations that are kind of reminders for them. So for instance, with the individual that has experienced a wildfire, they may smell fire or see fire and feel triggered by that. So say if somebody was barbecuing or somebody turns on the stove and the flame, that could be kind of a trigger and a reminder for them. And they could also be in a constant state of alertness. So according to the author, Joseph Walsh, when working with an individual that has experienced a traumatic event, one of the things that a clinician wants to do is to establish a rapport with the client. And one way to do this is by actively listening, conveying empathy, and providing them with verbal assurance. And so for the first role play, Laura's going to go ahead and kind of give you the demographic information on her individual.
The individual that I chose for this presentation is a mother, and she's bringing in her 10-year-old child. She is currently working as a nurse, and her husband owns his own construction business. The family recently was in a hurricane and they lost many things in their home, have a lot of damage to their home, lost their vehicles, can't work for a certain amount of time because they're waiting for the water to recede and everything to kind of get back into place. The child is struggling with loss and a lot of anxiety from this. So my goal is to teach the mom the effects of trauma and how trauma can impact their child. So what brings you in today?
Well, we just had a hurricane in our community, and it was really devastating. Like, we still have water in our house, in the basement, and my husband's actively trying to get it out. I noticed that I have a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old child. My 15-year-old seems to be handling the situation a little bit better, but my 10-year-old, I noticed that they've been having trouble sleeping. They seem a little on edge. And I'm not really sure how I could kind of help her get through this and know that she's going to be okay. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here today.
Okay. Once I kind of go over some of these effects and kind of how to recognize, we will get the family scheduled for an evaluation for the child to see kind of where their diagnosis leads. One of the main things to do is letting the child know that the tragedy is going to pass. Keep open dialogues with them to help them address their fears and emotions. It's hard for them to explain those things at that age. Don't minimize the event, but discuss how the family is doing with coping with this. Like, what are some family strengths that you could discuss with your child?
I could say that we all love each other very much, and that it's definitely a strength in our household, the love that we have for one another.
Those are good strengths. That definitely is something that the family's definitely going to need to support to move on from this. Mm-hmm. The child's stress hormones are also going to increase, so eventually we'll be able to identify triggers and coping mechanisms. It's going to lead to the child's neurophysiological development, which makes them always kind of on edge with the fight or flight response. They're always going to be heightened and always going to want to fight. Your signs your child is experiencing some of these things is having trouble falling or staying asleep, lack of energy, fatigue, being sad, anxious, nervous. Some physical symptoms include headaches, tension, stomach issues, appetite changes, breathing, chest pains. They might be confused, unable to focus. This could eventually affect their schoolwork. They can become avoidant, withdrawn, have issues with relationships, either with family members or friends. It could also cause them to get into different conflicts that they may not have in the past. When people are exposed to life-threatening situations, there's a significant loss or grief causing the post-traumatic stress disorder. Hurricanes are very detrimental because of economic damage and also the mental health damage that goes along with it. Children tend to take it personally when these disasters happen. They feel that it's their fault or something as a result of their behaviors because they don't understand why hurricanes come and what with the weather causes them. So they're seeing these as punishments. They're unable to discuss how they feel, whether it's limited language skills, being he's 10 years old. It's hard for them to explain, like they have all these emotions with anxiety and depression, but they can't put it to the hurricane and kind of identify why they're feeling like this. A bigger impact too can be from low socioeconomic status, prior traumas, lack of support, poor education can also increase the risk of PTSD, but it sounds like the family is very supportive. You both are hardworking individuals. You haven't had a hurricane in the past, so I mean this is new for everybody. Traumatic events can increase depression, panic disorders, anxiety disorders. So it's very important that you get the child diagnosed properly so that they can begin to work on interventions.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about anything that I went over?
No, it all sounds clear. I guess I never thought about that before, that that maybe she's feeling guilty, or maybe she's just things I just never thought of before. So it's all very interesting, and I really appreciate you taking the time to explain that to me. I'm really glad I came in today.
Thank you. And we will get you set up for the evaluation for her.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. So that was the end of our first role play. For the second role play, what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to give you some brief background on the individual for my client. So my client, her name is Marissa. She's a 15-year-old high school student. She recently lost her home to a wildfire. Her mother is a teacher at their local high school, and her father is a firefighter. She has two younger siblings, ages 6 and 9. Her family is pretty much financially stable. They're originally from Pennsylvania and relocated to California. For Marissa, it's been kind of an adjustment getting used to living on the West Coast, especially because most of her family's all in Pennsylvania. So following the wildfire, her family lost everything, and they're now staying in an emergency shelter. So Marissa's mother kind of has requested that the children attend individual counseling sessions because they're presenting symptoms of trauma, such as not being able to sleep. They appear to be very anxious. They're also very clingy. They're clinging to their parents whenever they're near them. And they also appear to be distracted. So Marissa wants the children to learn how to cope with their feelings. So this is Marissa's first session. So we're going to go ahead and get into that. So welcome, Marissa. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm really glad that you're here. I just want you to know that this is your place. This is a safe place, should I say. So right now we're here sitting over at the desk, but if you'd like, would you like to sit on the couch instead?
No, I'm okay right now.
Okay, good. I just want you to feel comfortable and know that you're in a safe and welcoming environment. So what I want to do is kind of gain an understanding of what you've went through and your experience. And I just want you to know that I know that can be overwhelming. So I just want to know, to kind of gain a better understanding of what transpired. Just tell me about your life maybe before this wildfire occurred.
Mm-hmm. Life definitely has had a lot of changes. We made a big move from the East Coast to the West Coast. We were all very excited to do this for better opportunities out here, and then we kind of had the wildfires happen, which then kind of brings all the joy and excitement of the change, which as difficult as it was, kind of just ruined it all. Took a lot from our family.
I'm really sorry. I mean, I can't even imagine how that would feel to, be excited to move to a new location and then have everything kind of taken away. Do you mind me asking, like, when that experience occurred and you were fleeing from the fire, can you explain to me kind of how you were feeling at that moment and maybe what your body, maybe what you were going through physically?
It was very scary. You kind of have to pick things. You don't have much time to get out and pack things, so you have to work with the family to pick kind of what means the most to you. So one of the things we're getting were family members, our pets, and like pictures, things that you can't replace. So we tried to get as much as we could, and we definitely didn't get everything we wanted. So there was a lot of loss around, basic things like holiday decorations. The food and those certain things can be replaced, but there's things like from grandparents, family members that we've gotten over the years that we don't have anymore.
And now that you're currently, you don't have those things there with you, what are you doing right now, like, to kind of make yourself feel happy again, I guess, should I say? Like, do you enjoy spending time with your family right now? Just kind of give me a little bit of idea, what is it that you're doing now since this big change has occurred in your life?
We're definitely working well together. We've always been a close, supportive family. We've reached out to family and friends that we had back on the East Coast for support. We're looking at the pictures and stuff that we do still have left and kind of trying to put together the pieces of what we need to get back to be able to get our home into a home again and kind of get our lives back on track.
Okay. So one of the things I just wanted to kind of explain to you is that anytime that you experience an event just like this, you may feel like extreme fear and, hey, Laura, can we press pause?
There we go.
So I'm glad to hear that you're reaching out to your other family, and it sounds like you have some good resources right now. Can you explain to me currently how you may be feeling, like, in your everyday to-day life since this event has occurred?
I feel kind of numb to things. I don't feel I show emotion. I also think that I just don't feel like myself. Like, I'm not sick. I don't have like a cold or the flu. I just don't feel right.
Okay.
But I'm like sweaty, nervous, it's hard to sleep, and I've never had issues like that before.
Okay. Now, those are all normal feelings that you can be experiencing because you went through this event, that's normal, okay? So whenever you go through an event like this where you feel that you are frightened, and you're frightened because of your own physical well-being and the well-being of your loved ones, those can be very overwhelming emotions. And so sometimes what happens is our body responds to those emotions. And one of the ways that our bodies kind of respond to this is that it tries to help us deal with it. So let's just say, for instance, you could be going numb. You could feel like you're in a standstill, like when you're actually going through those events. You could feel like you might need to take off, or you may feel like you need to take some kind of action. And sometimes even after the danger has ended, you still feel these strong reactions. So for instance, it sounds like right now, it sounds as though you kind of feel like you're you're feeling numb, you're kind of feeling almost at a standstill, and things just don't feel the way they used to be. Is that kind of what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so what I hope to do by you coming to these sessions is that maybe together we could kind of come up with some type of techniques to kind of help you feel grounded again, and maybe see that you are safe, and that, you know, you don't have to continue to feel stuck. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We could work together and maybe come up with some things, and these techniques that I teach you, you could then also kind of help your younger siblings and your family and teach them ways to kind of deal with the stress and the events that you went through. Okay?
I think that sounds like it'll be helpful for us.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you, Marissa.
Thank you. And now, before we wrap up, I'm going to explain, you know, once the diagnosis are given to the clients about whether it's PTSD, anxiety, depression, whichever kind of comes up, there are different therapies. I'm going to touch base on a few. There's mindfulness techniques, relaxation techniques, breathing that the clients can use for the anxiety, help them kind of calm themselves, calm their mind. Another one that's really good for PTSD is cognitive processing therapy, and it's talking with the therapist about the traumatic event and how your thoughts related to it affect your life. You write in detail kind of what occurred, and it helps you examine how you think about the trauma and find ways to live with it. So it kind of helps if you're blaming yourself for something, you take into account everything that's beyond your control, so you can move forward and accept that these things weren't your fault. Another is cognitive behavioral therapy, and this kind of works with the person's thought process and working through their cognitive distortions and how they can change their thought patterns to a more positive outlook for them. Solutions-focused therapy in crisis therapy would also be very good for this, kind of working with a therapist to identify what needs to be completed, such as helping with mental health symptoms, helping, you know, get the family back on their feet, finding supports, finding housing, jobs. There's plenty that comes along with trauma, and many, many different ways that social workers are able to help the client overcome these problems. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.